Welcome, Legion of the Lariat. It is I, stevezapf, your leader. We are here for the new format. For I Still Call It a Lariat. With me to cover AEW and NXT is Hound. How you doing, buddy?
I'm doing well, man. Thanks for having me. As always, great to see my friend. We are separated by 1,000 miles. Hopefully, I'll be down there to visit you in person soon.
But we still get to see each other at least once a week nowadays. So that's...
Listen, I am going camera free from now on. This is too much.
But it gives us a chance to do and talk about the one thing that binds us, and that's pro wrestling. We still love that, at least.
Yes, it's been a staple in our lives, man. Like, we've known anybody who's listened's heard us say it before. Showtime, Steve, and myself, we've known each other forever, and in particular, Steve and I really bonded when we first met over pro wrestling. And who'd have thought watching The Rock and Austin and all that would have led to me wearing a suit for your wedding?
Who would have thought? But there we were. Oh, so as we have mentioned in the previous episode, our new format is going to be that you and I are going to cover NXT and AEW news. We feel that this will get you out there in the land of Lariat more coverage, more in-depth views on things, but also shorter episodes. And then on the other side of things, Showtime and I will cover WWE and TNA information, and the three of us will still come together. We'll still be together for our reviews, previews, and bonus content as always. I'm sure we'll figure out something for Survivor Series that we need to review. I know we've already reviewed the first time they did Elimination Chamber on a Survivor Series, so we'll probably have to come up with something better, maybe the first Survivor Series ever. But we will see. Other than that, I want to give our shout out to our nonprofit organization. As always, Tap Cancer Out. This is a huge, huge organization. Folks, if you are not helping, I need you to start helping. This is major, major stuff. Helps with Alex's Lemonade Stand, American Brain Tumor Association, Isabella Santos Foundation, Little Pink Houses of Hope, Camp Sunshine, Christopher's Haven, the Sidney Kimmel Comprehensive Cancer Center at Johns Hopkins, CureCervicalCancer.org, First Descent, and Tom Coughlin's J Fund.
J Fund.
The J Fund. Guys, seriously, I don't know anyone whose life in some way, shape, or form has not been touched by cancer. Whether it is you who has had it, a family member, a friend, someone close to you, this helps out in so many different ways. I've seen them build houses, things like that. And it's just a really cool organization. It's a jiu-jitsu tournament based around helping with cancer research and things like that. It's kind of just a lot of fun, and it hits on all the levels of what we do with the show anyway. So, as always, the links for that stuff will be in our descriptions below. Yes, down. Not out. No.
Got confused.
So, we have also talked a little bit. I will be releasing more on who our interview is. 3-time world champion. I posted it on our TikTok. I posted it on our Instagram. I will be posting more of it. Like I said, we will reveal who it is this week. We are going to record it this week. We are going to have it out sometime next week, probably. So I don't have an exact date yet for it. I just want to make sure that we get it recorded and everything is out the door. And then I will start posting and just blasting you with information about it, because I will shamelessly self-promote this.
You know, it would be wonderful, because to anybody listening, I know who the interview is going to be with, spoiler, but it would be wonderful if I actually didn't, and Steve pulled one over on me and got me with a nice little rib here, and I'd be like, really? Wasn't expecting that.
What Hound doesn't know is I lied to him this whole time.
Damn it. Foiled again.
Again. All right. Let's talk a little bit of wrestling, though, other than just what we are doing.
Yeah,
around the wrestling world, Miro has asked for his release from AEW. Hound, a lot of questions are whether or not you think WWE will have interest in him now. He's been kind of injury riddled the last couple of years, and he has. I mean, he has the aura around him. I think he's a good wrestler. I think he has a lot going for him, but at the same time, again, the injury bug strikes him quite a bit.
So, I have always been a big fan of Rusev Day. I thought that was phenomenal. He's a phenomenal worker in the ring, and yeah, I mean, it happens to all of us as we're getting older. You just wake up and things hurt. You know, you can only get in so many car wrecks every night for so long. If he were to go back under the WWE umbrella, I think he would find a good home in NXT, especially with the TNA talent crossing over, because he's not going to be in the title picture, and I don't want to see him as enhancement talent. So you can have him kind of be a gatekeeper, if you will. It would even make sense if he were to take a title off like an Obafemi. And it's believable enough because, I mean, he's a big man, he's strong, and his in-ring work leads you to believe, like, wow, yeah, he could do that. And it would, not that Obafemi isn't a monster, because he is. It adds credibility, for lack of a better word, to that title. And I think it needs something like that. So if he does find himself under there, I'd like to see him involved in the NXT, TNA stuff. He doesn't need to be on the main roster. And plus, then he just has to be in Florida.
If he does get put on the main roster, for sake of argument, they try to bring him in big. He could be the guy that they make as a monster for LA Knight, even though. But unfortunately, like I said, I would need him to stay healthy.
You know, I know that across the board, the miles, if you will, of folks traveling town to town making shows has gotten lighter across the board, across the industry. I wonder if that has a lot to do with it. You know, it's nothing like being in your own bed. Nothing like eating food in your own kitchen. You know, nothing like home. And that's why I say, with the fact that he has been so injury prone, keeping him in one area, not that you could stick him on the main roster and he's credible immediately. I just think right now, if he could go a year with no injuries and let him work some mid to high level programs, then move him up. And yeah, he'd be a fantastic fit for LA Knight. But I truly believe the U.S. title needs a long, almost Gunther-style run right now to add some credibility. And bringing him in for that, unfortunately, I think you kind of offer him up as a sacrificial lamb. Maybe I'm wrong there, but it's I think he would be better served in the whole NXT TNA thing. Plus, I mean, it would be really fun to see him super kick nickname with Dolph Ziggler again, because that always looked wonderful.
I do love the Mashka kick.
That's the word.
And like everything they've said is that he and Tony Khan just can't seem to figure out something creative. This is the same guy who was Kip Sabian's best friend because they played video games together on screen. He was mad because they destroyed his video game machine. And you're telling me that the creative stuff they're coming up for him now is worse than that? I just want to throw that out there. You've already done. Also, this goes back to a lot of people's kind of knock on Tony Khan as a promoter, as a boss. If I know Vince doesn't have the most sparkling aura around him right now, but at any point in the last 40 years, could you picture a talent telling Vince McMahon, I'm not going on television because you don't have anything for me? The talent is saying that. Vince isn't saying that. The talent is saying that to Vince.
I could think of about 4 people who could say that and get away with it, and
And
everybody
how
else is out the door.
And how huge are their names, though?
They're people who've transcended the title.
They're possibly the Mount Rushmores.
100%. And
they're the Hogans, the Michaels, the Takers, the Austins.
Yeah, The Rock. You could we'll make it 5 because The
Five.
Rock 6, Triple H 2. All right, well we're gonna get that. Let's look at bigger as we're thinking about it. But it's a handful.
We're talking about pure Hall of Famers.
100%.
Absolute Hall of Famers. There's no question about it, and they are legends.
Yeah,
we're talking about legends saying it, and I'm just gonna put it out there. Even Shawn, as big as he was in '96, and he was close with Vince in '96, with the childhood dream and all of that, Brett, all this, all those guys. Would Vince have put up with Brett and Shawn in '95, '96 when they were hot? I'm not going out there because you're not coming up with anything good enough for me. That's great. You're not getting paid.
Yeah, and really what you're speaking about here is, and I often use this like as a comparative, like almost humorous way to compare things that you really shouldn't be comparing. It really is apples and a brick. So folks who are listening in outside the world of the podcast, both Steve and I have been in leadership roles for most of our lives. And the thing is, there's bosses and there's leaders. And even before I've stepped into a role where I've had to lead folks, I realized very quickly it's not about being everybody's best friend. And I think Tony's trying to do a lot too much of that. And you can be a good leader, a charismatic leader, and a caring leader, and also put your foot in someone's ass. And just last week at my normal job, somebody who I've kind of taken under my wing, I had to pull aside, and he got a come to Jesus meeting. It doesn't mean that I don't like the gentleman, but step it up, or I will push you out the door, kind of thing. So
And it has to happen sometimes. Mm-hmm. And here's the thing. I know Miro has been hurt here and there. That is not what I'm saying. I'm not telling someone that they should work through injury. That just so we're clear on that. I am saying that if this guy is clear to work, he is not injured, there is no reason why he's not at television every week.
There's also no reason why he's not perpetually around one of AEW's 19 mid-card titles. Okay, you don't want to put him in the world title picture. I think you're missing an opportunity there because he can go with anyone, regardless of size, style, anything, and he'll make it work.
I think you're missing something there too. But if you want to elevate something else in your product, have him go after the Ring of Honor title.
I would love to see him in Briscoe. I think that'd be fun.
And Briscoe, oh my God. Fun. Like, as soon as I thought it and you said it, I was like, yes. It would be, and you could have a feud for that. And it would be a fight.
We're talking about this, and rest in peace, Jay Briscoe, but could you imagine if Jay had not passed away and we got Miro and Jay just beating the holy hell out of each other?
Especially with the Jay Driller, man. Like, that's your finisher. And the one chink they always said in Miro Rusev's armor is the neck.
Yep. And
you tease it, you tease it, you tease it, you tease it, and then finally hit it.
Yeah,
we'd have some fun matches with those two.
We would, and still will with Mark Briscoe. I understand that Mark Briscoe is sometimes just comedy, and people will only see the comedy side of it, but they don't realize, like, that dude's a killer in there. Like, don't let the whole redneck kung fu and the froggy bow and all that stuff fool you. That dude is a killer.
I love every bit of those. I love every bit of it.
Well, with both of us being from Jersey and knowing just that Sandy Fork, Delaware is only an hour and a half, 2 hours away, we know far too many real-life Briscoes.
I drove through that area to get to Baltimore, or to get to Maryland one time, and it was the loneliest time of my life because there's nothing there. And it was me alone in a car. It was just sad. I was just sad. I was like, oh, look, there's corn out here. I
There,
don't know what I'm going to do with that.
there's
Oh,
definitely sand. There's just no forks.
nah, no forks.
There's
All right.
no teeth. No need for forks. Sorry.
Um, this is kind of big news coming. Sorry, I'm going to get us back on track now. Kind of big news coming out. GCW pulls Zilla Fatu, the son of Umaga, from all of their upcoming shows. The rumor that I've heard literally today is that he's AEW bound. I don't know if I believe that, especially because I know we spoke before the show and you said that AEW, you were the one who brought up that AEW and GCW tend to have some sort of working relationship with each other. I will say this: if it is true, I feel like this is Tony's way of trying to steal somebody so that WWE can't get it, because the bloodline is so hot right now and everything they're doing fires on so many cylinders, especially with I wouldn't be surprised if he's still a little mad that he didn't get Jacob. He could have had Jacob. He could have had Jacob Fatu. For the last, 5 years he could have had Jacob Fatu. And you're telling me Jacob Fatu wouldn't have been a star? He's a star now. He was a star 5 years ago.
He really was and is. So the whole Zilla thing, and like we talked about, it's, Moxley's the perfect example. I mean, I believe he was AEW champ and GCW champ simultaneously.
It was something weird like that. Yeah.
It was something like that, or maybe it was IWGP, but one of the two. And if I don't see where Zilla would fit there, because he's literally bigger than everybody on that roster except Luchasaurus, who is an actual giant and a dinosaur.
Kill switch now.
Oh, right. Please, still a dinosaur.
Kill Switchosaurus?
I love it. I absolutely love that. I just can't see him ending up there. I could see dollar signs being flashed in front of his eyes, and everybody involved in the bloodline in real life, they truly are all about family. And those kind of dollar signs is taking care of a family and taking care of a family well. The thing with Zilla is I do believe he is going to be bound for the WWE side of things. And with him disappearing off things, and again, there's no proof to this, and this is just me speculating, I wouldn't be surprised if in the next couple of weeks we hear that he's been cited at the Performance Center. And we have something like 6 months of just him learning to, not that he needs to learn how to work in the ring, he does need to polish stuff because he's a very young man.
24, 25 years old, something like that.
But he's
a young dude.
And he's like an Umaga. Jacob Fatu is an anomaly, and he's one of one. Zilla has a chance to be the next Umaga, who was just light years ahead of his time. And
so I also like that Zilla, he's not quite as thick as some of the other, I guess we could say, purebred Samoans. The Roman and The Rock live in this world where they're the trimmest. They're the most in shape of them. Zilla is like this in between of like Roman and Umaga. He's thick, but he's not Umaga big. He's not even for at the age that we could compare them. I'll say Samoa Joe. Samoa Joe was thicker, where Zilla has a lot more like definition to him. His arms are big. Like, I'm not saying that any of these guys are small by any means, but Zilla looks like he spends more time in the gym than some of these guys do. He's got that look that I could definitely see WWE rallying behind, aside from, the face tattoo.
Well, Zilla is, I believe, like almost identical in size to Jacob. And look at how much weight Jacob has pulled off. Jacob is in that, when you're watching somebody on a weight
280 now.
Yeah,
and you're watching down to like 280.
And when you're watching somebody who's on a weight loss journey, they hit that point where their body gets to a certain point, and then the definition comes, and he looks like he's there. Zilla has been there, if not one little notch past that. And I could see them putting him through hell. I mean, if they got him in there in the weight room with like somebody like Cena, because I mean he's going to be very involved with the kids coming up. You might see him on WWE coming out with an 8-pack, and that's a scary thought, because I mean
I
the
don't
face
want,
tattoo is intimidating. And
I
listen,
don't want
Jake.
to see any of that.
Well, I mean, listen, yeah, it's no secret. Jacob Fatu does scare me a little bit, and
I
I,
think it's just his grills.
it's, dude, when he's sitting there
Or do
praying,
they just not help?
it doesn't help. But the no, it's the eyes when he's doing the whole praying hands next to Solo. I was like, you know what, man? I don't care. Sure, yes, you can have your refund even if you don't have the receipt. I understand we don't sell this product. It's fine. You get your money back.
He's I you know what? And there hasn't been someone who is that committed to his character in this business in a very long time. A very long time.
Well, he's got the blueprint to follow, man. Like Roman Reigns, legitimately, he is he is that character now. Like I fully believe that even off camera, he kind of lives it a little bit.
I mean, I
And
could see that. He's probably the guy that holds them together a little bit, if nothing else. Like, hey, or like if they're kind of going to mess around because the rest of them are a little younger, the solos and the guys like that. Hey, guys, just don't screw this up. Don't do anything too dumb. Like, learn from us.
well, and I don't want to speak on this as if I know everything about it, but I'm fairly certain Jacob did do some time. And he may be so laser focused and dialed in because he's taking care of his family that right now, and knowing this is his shot, and he's got people in his ear, and it's not going to his head. It's going to his work ethic as opposed to his ego. And I can't wait to see in 2-3 years when he's main eventing Mania, if not sooner.
So Jacob absolutely did time. And Zilla did time too. And that I think that's another one of the things that if he's not being picked up, it might be one of those things where they're like, it's already enough of a hurdle that we have to jump for Jacob stuff. We don't want to have to jump both of you guys.
It could be. It could very well be. And again, anybody listening, this is all speculation. That's the fun part of
We
this.
have no idea where he is going right now because they haven't said where he's going.
He could also
And he
just be
hasn't
taking a
shown
break.
up somewhere. He might just show up somewhere.
Yeah, and he could also just be taking a break.
That's also true. You never know. Sometimes he might just want to he might be bound somewhere and he's just trying to get his body in the best rested shape that he can. Someone who appears to not be resting, even though should be retiring. Vince McMahon's docuseries on Netflix is coming out this week. It's literally coming out, I believe, on Wednesday of this week. We're looking at the week of the 22nd right now. September 22nd. It should be out in a couple days. I don't know if they're dropping the entire series all at once. I know that's usually how Netflix does things. I'm actually very interested in seeing this. I want to see what different people have to say, especially since Vince wasn't really involved with this.
You know, it's all right. The 600-pound gorilla is the charges and allegations made against Vince. I wasn't there. I mean, I firmly believe where there's smoke, there's fire. And I'll leave that at that. This may very well be the goodbye to Vince. Like, this might be the last we hear about it, and which is fine because WWE is moving in such an incredible direction that they don't need to really dredge that up, but you also might need to put a flag in the ground and be like, okay, this is where it is and this is where we leave it. We don't look back past this point. And I think it's smart. Plus, it will be interesting to hear the take of folks on certain things where, especially if they now feel comfortable enough to speak freely.
I think it's just going to be interesting in general. I want to, like I said, I kind of want to see what these people have to say without the specter of Vince hanging over them a little bit. Like, hey, I can talk and I don't have to worry about what you're going to do because A, I'm either retired already, or B, my career's so big and you're already gone that there's not much. You can't really do anything to me right now, because it looks like everyone that they have involved in that is pretty big. Cena's, the Austins, the Takers, the people like that. I like I said, I will watch it. I will watch it. I'll probably watch it more than once just to really, really see where we're at in the world and whether or not here on the show we have to review it or anything like that. That might be something that we have to do, because if it's that interesting, and let's face it, the better portion of the last 40 years, if we said pro wrestling, Vince's name had to be tagged onto it.
Yeah. The one thing I hope doesn't come from this is I don't want this to be like everybody finally being like, oh, I can finally say F you. I mean, look, if that's how everybody truly feels, fine. I more want to. I don't. It's hard to phrase how I want to say this.
From the trailers that I've seen, it doesn't seem like that. It doesn't seem like people are just kind of crapping on Vince. It seems like they're just being honest about the situations. And again, who knows what? You know what I mean? Like if you weren't there, we don't know if you know something, and you can't know what you don't know. And I realize I'm kind of talking in riddles and tongues right now, but at the same time, you don't know what you don't know. And we weren't there. We never worked for WWE. We never have been around Vince. That is not something that I'll say our checkered career, our illustrious career. I don't know if we can go as high as illustrious, but we've never sat in a room with Mr. McMahon or Uncle H. Even Uncle Paul, Mr. Levesque. Again, if you are still hiring, we're right here. Well, whatever you need, I'll get you coffee at this point. Tony, on the other hand, because Tony Khan, I know, listens to this. I'm positive of it. You need to hire some writers, and once again, we're still sitting right here.
Good Lord. Oh, man.
Now that I brought that up, though, AEW's television deal apparently is supposed to include pay-per-views that are going to stream on the Max streaming app. All that it says is that it's going to be streaming as soon as January. It could be sooner, they're saying, but the January is when they've officially given that it's going to happen. Now then, they've also given no other ideas of this, where how WWE started doing PLEs with Peacock and things like that. They haven't said whether or not you will still be purchasing the pay-per-views through Max. So it whether or not this lessens the financial burden on anybody, that still remains to be seen.
See, it would be one thing, speaking of like the finances of this, it would be one thing if Tony Khan wasn't, what his father's name, Shad Khan?
Shad Khan.
No, I just want to make sure I had that right. It'd be one thing if he wasn't a member of that family, where hand to mouth is how they were living. They've got more money than God. So it's not like he needs this to be an immediate turnaround, especially if it shows that there is a trend that within the next 12 to 18 months, they are a company that their books are now in the black. I think with all the missteps AEW has had over the course of the last, I'd say 2 years, because I mean, they definitely had a solid run for a little bit and then it's gone off the rails. It would be a huge misstep to tell people, pay X amount of dollars per month for this thing and then buy the pay-per-view on top of it. I think you're alienating a portion of your audience if you do that.
I'm not saying you're wrong. Here is all I'm saying is, how is that any different than what ESPN Plus does?
ESPN Plus offers a lot more.
They do offer a lot more, but most people are already subscribing to Max. or some type of streaming app. So you're already getting everything that comes with Max. So you're getting the HBO stuff, you're getting the Discovery stuff, you're getting a lot of the WBD stuff anyway. And then they're charging you, especially if it's something where, oh, well, you're paying for the paper or you're paying for this, and instead of paying for the pay-per-view on Bleacher Report or one of the other streaming ones, I forget whichever other ones they're on. I believe DAZN and what did we just watch? Triller was the one that we've been watching it on because they had the packages. Instead of spending $50 on that, you spend $30 because you're already spending $15 a month on Max.
They have to make it worth it. Now, don't get me wrong, All In and All Out, aside from the end of All Out, they were enjoyable. They really were. But there's only... You can't have outlier bright spots be the thing that hooks your audience. That, like we've spoken about it before, leading into and coming out of WrestleMania, it was what? Did they hit 30 consecutive TV dates sold out, or was it in the 20s?
I don't remember. I know when I just looked at it on SmackDown recently, they were at, this year, they're at 30 something television sellouts and 50 something event sellouts for the year, which is still just absurd.
It is absurd, and that's kind of what I'm getting at. Like, I understand that there has to be a value for the consumer there, because times are tough for everybody out there right now. And if you're going to want people to part with hard-earned money, I think AEW does themselves a favor by going the route I'm saying, because they're in no danger of closing because of money.
Especially not if they're truly getting this television deal. If this television deal is going through, then they're I'm not going to say that during our previous episode, I had said that this television deal would get them back in the black. I have since listened to some other people, and I do agree with them. I don't think that this television deal necessarily gets them back in the black right away. This is something where I think that they really, really need to take a hard look at their books, at their roster, at everything, and see what kind of people you have just sitting there, just hoping that, who was it? I think Bryan Danielson is one of those guys that talks about it. You just had guys who are just hoping that they don't have a match on Rampage. Because why do I need to wrestle? I'm collecting this paycheck. It might be cheaper for you to clean house a little bit. And obviously it would be cheaper to clean house, but also, how many guys do you have on roster that you're not really using? Or you're using and no one cares about him. Again, I hate to use this guy as the example, but Pac, up until recently, we all just assumed Pac was going to lose his big matches because he never won them before.
AEW does need to clean house. They kind of do need the whole dreaded group text where people found out they were released. And the last thing I want right now is people holding on to people so that way they can't go somewhere else. Look, I'll tell you this. If I was a pro wrestler and you were paying me whatever it was and making me not put my body through it, I'm probably not going to complain. But then again, I also know me and I know you. We'd find a ring somewhere and go kick the crap out of each other anyway. But I can understand from the financial standpoint there. It's AEW's roster is bloated and bloated for no reason. You have far too many potentially powerful folks that now have nowhere to go, or at least aren't being used. Miro, like we talked about earlier, perfect example.
Lance Archer. There's a lot of these guys who they're just not doing anything with, or they bring them in for hey, we're gonna try to make you the scary guy for like 2 weeks, and you can't realize that they're not. And you and I just spoke about how we both have held leadership positions in actual businesses. One of the things, and for the most part, my background is in hospitality. One of the things that they teach you in sales and hospitality is always it takes 60 days to turn something around. It takes 60 days before you see a change in your sales or anything like that. So you can't bring someone in as a 1 week tester to see if that's what's gonna change your product. And I think that's where AEW is at with this television deal and all of that stuff. I think we need to really see. First of all, I want to see if how close this television deal is actually to being done, because we keep hearing that it's close to being done. Sometime next week we'll hear about it being done. It's not quite done yet. It's almost done. It's there. It is done. It's not done. I'm only going to put a pin in this now because it's still speculation until it's done. Until WBD and Tony or the AEW board of directors, whoever is involved in that, puts pen to paper and it's done. Until there's a notary there that says, yep, this is it. This is what we're doing. It's not done. So
It's always great to speculate, but I agree with you. We should definitely drop a pin in that because it gives us something to circle back to see if we hit the nail on the head or if there is a curveball that came out of nowhere. We're like,
exactly.
wow, didn't expect that. And all I hope for in the end is that it's good for the industry as a whole.
I don't see how them sticking around couldn't be good for the industry as a whole. It just gives a lot of people more places to work still. And that's always my thing. No one wants AEW to go out of business. I just want them to be better.
I want them to find their identity.
I wanted them to figure out what they're doing. You can't just be the place where the best wrestle. But we'll get more into that when we get to AEW. We're going to cover something we haven't really covered on this show before, and that's NXT. Hound, you are inaugurally covering NXT. We very rarely do it. We talk about little segments here and there, or if something big happens, but we've never actually covered a full episode of NXT before, and we are going to do it today on this show. Ever since you've been coming on, you've been a history maker, buddy.
Well, now I am extra nervous. Oh, no.
No, you're not. Oh, no.
Oh,
no. All right, so the show this week starts off with Ava, the Rock's daughter. I will say that almost every time. Nepotism.
Doesn't
Talking
exist.
about it's not whatsoever. No. How would I know? So the show starts off with her as the general manager talking about the NXT debut on the CW in 2 weeks. Let me just start off by saying I think NXT going to the CW is awesome. This is a huge jump. NXT going to network television, even if the CW is kind of the smallest of the network television brands, that's a big deal for them. That gives you a mighty big jump.
It really does. It legitimizes the brand. Not that it wasn't already, but it legitimizes it in the eyes of, because the issue NXT has, it's not talent, it's not the ability to put on a show, it's not the ability to tell a story. It's getting it in front of more eyes, because you do have tried and true, hard and fast, I watch Raw only, I watch SmackDown only, I watch both. You're now going to get some bleed over to that. And a byproduct of this is going to be, it's going to pull TNA up too.
Exactly. The only thing that I'm a little worried about, and that's only because I do occasionally like watching it, is on the streaming app for the CW. The NWA is on that right now. And I'm a little worried that this could be something that maybe kind of knocks them a little dead at this point. I don't know what, again, and I don't know what their contract looks like at this point. So maybe it could, maybe it couldn't. Maybe this brings more eyes to NWA, because if you have this on the CW app as well, hey, I missed NXT this week, I'm going to go watch it on the app. And then you realize there's another wrestling program on the app. Maybe you go and watch it. I'm not saying that's how it happens, but I mean, isn't that kind of how we all stumbled onto other wrestling?
100%. I mean, anytime you can make things Venn diagram over each other, and in you saying that makes me wonder. I think back to when we were younger, it was not unheard of for WCW and NWA to kind of be crossing over a little bit. And NWA, even though it's nothing like it used to be, those letters still carry weight, at least historical weight. I wonder if somehow Triple H is going to grab hold of this too and pull this under that umbrella a little bit. It's not a terrible idea, but again, it has to be done properly. They're doing the TNA and NXT thing right. To add to this, I would almost want to see NWA almost get subsumed into it, but I just don't want the letters NWA to go away.
I don't want the NWA to go away whatsoever. I actually said, since you can't have the working relationship with AEW and TNA anymore, really, I had said that AEW would do well to have a working relationship with NWA.
It's not a bad idea, but I wonder if that's conflict of interest right there, and that immediately pulls NWA off the streaming service.
Again, who knows? And I don't want to speculate because I don't know. And this was before they fully made this deal. I just thought that they should have done this when we were looking at different places that AEW could pull talent for any of these casino gauntlets or anything like that. I thought NWA would be a prime example. The show opens with NXT opens with a contract signing between Trick Williams and All Ego Ethan Page. I'll tell you what, man, Trick Williams is a star. He's a star. He is an absolute star. He's going to get to the main roster, and so long as he starts getting some more reps in and he can really start pulling off those matches, he's got it. He's got size, look, talk. The only thing that's questioning is his match delivering, and realistically, you can't tell me that where he's at in his career right now is any worse off as far as pure wrestling goes than I'm going to throw a big name out there than John Cena.
So I agree to a point about Trick Williams. He 100%, he has the look. The crowd can get behind it. I mean, that whole "whoop that trick" chant it's great. Anything 3 words is a great chant. And
Whoop that trick.
I don't think he's strong on the mic. And I think we are looking at things a little bit rosy because of his matches with Ilya, and Ilya can get a good match out of anybody. So not to say Trick isn't fantastic, but I don't think he will be at that level, and he will be a star. I think he needs to really get under a learning tree for a while, and not a Chris Jericho one.
No Vortex. So this is what I will say about Trick. He's so closely linked with Carmelo. Obviously, Carmelo is a better in-ring performer. I'm just going to give it to you this way, though. I've just admitted that Carmelo is obviously the better wrestler. If you were to put both of them on the mic, who's better, realistically?
Truthfully, right now, and this is I think you and I are gonna disagree here. Honestly, it's Mello, and I think it's
Trick.
Well, here's the difference. Your Trick is in an arena with 300-400 people. Mello's in front of 10,000-15,000, and he has the attention of 10,000-15,000 people. It may not be the best promos. It's not as bad as a Roman Reigns Suffer and Succotash one, but It's
I just feel like Trick's delivery is a little bit more natural. And again, who knows? I think that is where I'm at. Is Trick's natural ability to cut a promo is better than where Mello's is. Where Mello, I'm not saying that that's not his personality, but it feels like he's kind of fighting to get it out sometimes.
you know, and as we're talking about this is kind of what clicked for me. It's we're not going to know until Trick does it in front of the Mellow size crowds now.
A big crowd.
Because that's the thing. Think back to Mellow in NXT. His promos landed. But it's an NXT promo. It's a young up-and-comer promo. There's supposed to be that, hopefulness and a little bit of stumbling over it where you're like, "Aw, look at him go. He's getting it."
Now, see, that's actually where I was. I don't pay that much. I hate to say it like this. I don't pay as much attention to Melo's promos on the main roster right now because he's involved with guys like LA Knight who cut such better promos. My thing is I'm looking at Melo. I'm looking at NXT Melo, where I hate to say it, but Trick did a lot of his talking for him.
Trick was a good hype man, and this is what I would challenge you to go back and look at and see if you still see it the same way. Mello came up and kind of got thrown to the wolves with Cody. I challenge you to go back, and Cody is a master on the mic. I mean, even though he's got a lisp, he's still a master on the mic.
We know a lot of people like that.
Diesel. If you're out there, Adrian, love you, buddy. But I would challenge you to go back and watch their promos back and forth, and I think you'd be surprised that yes, did Cody carry him 100%, but it was not as lopsided as you think.
So I'm not disagreeing with you. I just think I think Trick has more upside right now. Overall, I think he's got a lot more upside. I think Mello, unfortunately, I like Mello, but he might turn into a guy that just puts on good matches.
He's little.
I know.
And that's really what it is.
I don't want to just throw that out there, but like Trick Williams played for the Eagles, man. Like he's a big dude. He's
I knew I didn't like him.
That's what it is.
That's
which
Eagles.
Is why you were so happy when Ethan Page put him through a table at the end of this segment. Which it was actually a little shocking that they had. It's not as shocking, but it was a little shocking that the heel kind of went over strong on this segment. They really had him. I think they're really trying to build Ethan Page to show that he's not just this guy that we're putting this belt on because we stole him from AEW. They didn't steal him from AEW. His contract was up. He decided not to re-sign because they weren't doing much with him. He went to NXT. He won the NXT title. He's good on the mic. He's a classic pro wrestler. And I like classic pro wrestlers. And he has that classic pro wrestler, classic heel pro wrestler vibe about him.
The smart move here, and it kind of ties back into everything you and I were just talking about, is this should be Trick's send-off to the main roster. And I see, what are they, 2 weeks out from when they're having their match here?
Their debut, yeah, 2 weeks.
So it does make sense for Ethan Page to have that moment because NXT is going to end the next time. It's going to end Trick Williams triumphant, standing on the ropes, holding that belt up. And I believe Ethan Page will end up keeping the title. And I believe that's what they're supposed to do right now because the buzz around Trick Williams internally is still very, very high. And they do need to get him up there because he does need to, if they want to get the best out of him, he needs to become a Paul Heyman guy behind the scenes. And if you do that with him, then 1,000,000,000% you are looking at a generational talent.
If he's the type of guy that wants to learn, I could see him transcending the business at some point.
100%.
I'm saying barring injury and all the jazz,
of course,
all the things that could just derail this. But this was a pretty good segment. We go straight from that into we get Tony D'Angelo and Hammerstone in the back. You find out that Hammerstone went after Obafemi on Tony D'Angelo's orders because Hammerstone did not quite finish the job. Tony D'Angelo wants his money back, or he wants them to go finish the job. This leads to what will be a match between Tony D'Angelo and Hammerstone. I like Hammerstone. I've never been the biggest Tony D'Angelo fan. I know you and I were talking about this beforehand. I just feel like anytime they've done a mafia type gimmick or something like this, it's done. It's done. It's been done. I've seen it. I've seen it. That is to say, I saw it.
So for anybody listening, and forgive me if the way I phrase this bothers somebody, but I'm a guinea from the New Jersey, New York area. Tony D'Angelo, he's a caricature. Like, I've got uncles who legitimately are like that. And that's really what it comes down to. And I'm sorry, the only ones who did it right, in my opinion, were ECW, and what was it, the FBI.
The FBI, the full-blooded Italians.
Yeah. I miss
where there was only one Italian in the whole group.
100%. Well, listen, everybody's Italian up this way, even though they're not. So
it's just because we all eat pizza. I just, like I said, I just feel like, I don't know. I feel like, kind of like you said, it's cartoony. It's a caricature of what the mafia is. If this was more serious, if it was maybe, I guess, more soprano-y, like we took it seriously. But this just, every time they do stuff with this, it's a little bit too cartoony. This is still like the pull away from the NXT 2.0 stuff.
I just had an idea in my brain. Bring Rusev in, and you have the Italian mafia answering to Rusev, the Russian mob boss.
I'm actually in for that.
It would be good, and then Rusev doesn't have to work all that often, and then he just goes out there, and when he Machka kicks somebody and stomps on their back, it makes sense.
All right, let's see. We get next. We have a tag team match with Tatum Paxley and Lyra Valkyria versus Wendy Chu and Rosemary from TNA. I really like Rosemary. I've always liked Rosemary. I like how she can kind of be schizophrenic and switch around her stuff. Wendy Chu is doing this scary gimmick now, and I have it written here. Why does every cute wrestler go gothic to shake the nice gimmick? Like, it's just, I don't understand it. It's always what they do. Like, if you look, who was it? The Bunny, when she went to Allie, the Bunny went to start teaming up with Rosemary, and then she became gothic, and then she went over to AEW and kind of kept doing a little bit and became a little bit more BDSM type stuff. And
it's a high school
that's
trope.
Offending.
But no, look, it's a high school trope. I mean, I'm exactly right now remembering somebody who, when we went to 8th grade together and then 9th grade together, and in 8th grade, she was a cutesy little blonde, bippity boppity. And then freshman year, she was jet black hair, Marilyn Manson, like the goth changeover. It's kind of a trope, I think. And it's because visually it's such a stark contrast that it gets it across. And I think that's why we'll keep leaning into it, because it really is the other side of a coin.
My only issue with it is it happens too often now. Like, it happens too closely together with varying wrestlers. So I'm seeing it one week, and then almost like a week later, I'm seeing it with a different wrestler, and that's where my issue is I don't mind. I'm not disagreeing with what you're saying. I'm just saying it's happening to the population of goth world is becoming too dense.
Well, I mean, isn't like goth what all the kids are into now? Like, all the boys want a goth girl. So they might be trying to lean into that to get a hold of the younger male audience.
It's all Rhea Ripley's fault.
It,
Rhea, I love you. Don't take that the wrong way.
no, take it the wrong way and kick his ass.
Do it. I mean, no, I don't want. Do it, please. Oh,
we can make this happen. Damian Priest.
It's true. My only other question is: every time Lyra entered the ring, she did the jump over the top rope. I get it. You're a bird. Stop it.
She was excited.
Stop it.
I agree with you. It's, I get it. It's overdone. It's much like we've talked about in previous shows about things lasting just a bit too long. And she's another one. She's like 4'3". Just go on in between the middle and bottom rope. But if you want to be like, ha,
look how athletic I am. Every time.
Unless going forward, if she legitimately, no matter what, going in and out of the ring does that as her thing going forward, I'm in.
It seems like that's what's happened.
Then I'm in.
It's
call. I'm in.
Call. Oh my god. All right, we get a backstage segment where Jevion Evans steps up to ask Ava about the St. Louis NXT. He says that he knows that obviously Chicago is already kind of densely booked and he's not trying to add more to her plate. And we eventually get an answer for that during his tag team match later on. So we'll go over that a little bit more when we get to that tag team match. But I did like that they showed that it was almost like a respectful ask this time. So
there's that. And, we've all gone to people, whether it be, people in our family or people we know or even bosses in our past and asked for something like that. But it's also, you've planted a seed. It is the start of telling a story. And with them changing over to a network, you do have to really start planting seeds. You're going to have some carryover, but if I'm right, and then this is the send-off for Trick Williams, what's next? You can't have it be Joe Hendry again, although it should be Joe Hendry every time. But it's because I believe.
We have Tony D'Angelo and Hammerstone in a match. I don't like Tony D'Angelo's belly-to-belly suplexes. I don't like the fact that throughout the night we got a Rocky 3 storyline from Tony D'Angelo and his family. His family. Hey yo, gabagool.
Hey, how dare you?
They literally just quoted Rocky. They literally quoted Rocky 3 word for word throughout this show. Word for word. I am surprised trademarks are not coming out, like copyright infringement. They had Riz just play Adrian.
It's
just full on. She was like they're like, how'd you get so tough? I've been around fighters my whole life. Come on, man. I get it. It's an old movie. We are old. But you tell me someone who has watched wrestling that has not seen the Rocky series.
CM Punk.
Other than CM Punk, he's not real. He's not that's why he's a heel.
But listen, the whole time with that going on, I was thinking back to when Sami Zayn was taking the IC belt off Gunther, and those the crappy things with him and Chad Gable. It was worse. It was a crappier Sami and Chad Gable.
I know it was. Come on, you son of a bitch!
Get up, you bum! Because
I was just waiting for it. I was waiting for someone to hand him a goddamn cufflink to put around his neck.
The only way it could have been better
is Rocky Marcial and those cufflink. Oh, what happened to the other one? I don't know. Probably went to some bum.
The only way it could have been better is if something happened where the match ended and he was like, I didn't hear no bell. And it was like, my ring's outside.
Yeah. At least it's a different Rocky movie. And it's the least watched Rocky movie. Like, you and I would have gotten it.
Of course.
Listen, I love Rocky 5. I ain't hear no bell. You knocked him down. Why don't you try knocking me down now? Oh my god. Just all around. Listen, I love Hammerstone. I think Hammerstone is a star. I think he has a look. I think he's athletic. I can't believe it's taken them this long to scoop him up.
Hammerstone is built identical to Brian Cage. You know, they're
But he's taller.
Twin. Is he?
He's taller. He's taller. He's like a legit 6'3".
He's little, but
I mean, I know there's a lot of comparisons with him, and I think part of the reason why he cut his hair at one point is there was a lot of comparisons with him and Triple H at one point, because he had the long blonde hair and he had the goatee and he was jacked, and they're about the same size. Like, Triple H might have him by an inch or something like that, but he's like a 6'3", 260-pound, athletic, muscular dude.
they need to. It's very easy to fumble the ball when you have a physical specimen like that, because you just go, oh, okay, and you don't pour into that oftentimes, because like, oh, and they've got everything they need already. And even though the dude is chiseled out of granite and is fantastically athletic, he's still human like everybody else. And if you don't pour into him and you don't add to him and build him up, he'll get left behind. And unfortunately, that's my biggest fear for him, is that he'll be a victim of his own success, for lack of a better way to say it.
I think that's why I like the fact that he's in TNA right now. He's not actually in NXT. He's getting some reps in on NXT, and he's getting some good work in over in TNA. And I'm really happy about that, because it gives him a chance to throw some stuff against the wall and really, really see what sticks.
That, and he's a pretty young man, if I'm correct, too. So
I don't think he's very old whatsoever. Actually,
I thought he was in his 20s.
He might be 30.
I thought he was like 28.
Let us find out. He was born in 1991.
Math.
So he is 30 and change.
So he's 33.
He's 33.
So he's older than I realized. Okay, so he does not have as much time to cook as I'd hope. But let's hope the injury bug doesn't strike him, and let's hope.
Unless he's healthy, he's been healthy this whole. Yeah, he's 33. If he stays healthy this whole time, there's not a whole lot. They're not cornering people, like they used to. Like, if you look, a lot of these guys, they're the Finns, the Damian Priest. A lot of these guys are a lot older than they used to be, and they're sticking around. I know Showtime brought it up that during the Kokoa interview that we had, he brought up that we were like, oh, what do you think your legacy is going to be? He's like, well, I don't know, because I still think I've got like 10, 15 years left. Like, there's no reason I can't wrestle until I'm at least 50. And if you take care of yourself and you're not really getting hurt and you're in good shape, nowadays it's kind of true. The way sports science is, we're seeing guys last a lot longer.
And that's what I was just saying. As long as he doesn't get bit by the injury bug, and you could probably get a solid 10 more years out of him. If and the dude is a specimen, and you know as well as I do, the better shape you are in, the less likely you are to get injured. So,
especially when you're big like that, because it's padding on you.
Yeah.
And he doesn't look like he has, like, as muscular as he is. He looks like he still has like a healthy amount of like body fat, where he's not going to tear something doing something simple.
Yeah, he's not jacked the way Buff Bagwell was, where it looked like it was hard for him to breathe.
Is that why he was always so out of breath?
That and the steroids.
That as well. Next we get Zachary Wentz comes out kind of out of nowhere at the end of this match, and even Booker T kind of says, he's like, what? Where did he come from? Where is security for all this? But he shows footage of Wesley jumping Trey Miguel as he gets into his car. He cuts a promo about how during about how he's going to get his revenge, and they're not brothers anymore, and all that good jazz. I think that it's time to pull the trigger on this storyline as well. Like, I think this blow off just needs to be the blow off. They need to stop teasing this whole Rascals breakup because they're broken up.
Yes, and I've been wondering if oftentimes it's because they don't have anything else lined up and you don't want to waste momentum, that sometimes things hang around for a little bit too long and get long in the tooth. But it is time to have this, this big blow up match like you just said, and let them go fight some other people and then maybe circle back to it in a year.
I agree. After that, we get Eddie Thorpe versus Ashante the Adonis. I love Eddie Thorpe. I do. I think I thought he was talented in New Japan. I think he's talented now. I think the issue with him is there's a lot of stop and go momentum, and that's always my issue with some guys. Is it's not them, it's this. Okay, we're building. Okay, stop. We're not going to have you on television for a few weeks. And then all of a sudden it's like a month later and you're like, all right, well, now we're going to build again, and we're going to pull it back again. And there's been a lot of that since he's gotten to NXT. And I think that's why it's a lot of, again, it's the Pac syndrome. It's the Nick Nemeth syndrome. I'm sorry, Dolph Ziggler syndrome. I don't buy you as a credible contender because you haven't been a credible contender.
Yeah, there's definitely a bit of that going on. And also, it is time for some folks to graduate, if you will, especially with the move on to the CW. Like, it is definitely, I would not be shocked if there's a couple of champions that are moving to the main roster right after this. And I think you kind of need some people to clear out to make room for him too. And that might be why we're seeing him 2 weeks here, and then we see him for 2 weeks in September, and then we don't see him again until 3 weeks in November, kind of thing. So I do think we need to clear out some room for them. And again, with this whole change onto the main network and all of that, I think analytics are going to play a big part. And you'll start to see, okay, did the ratings spike, up or down for this particular person? So it kind of almost like a fresh start for a lot of people.
Immediately following that, we get a Chase U segment about the whole Rich Holland situation. Talk about gimmicks that are long in the tooth. I think Chase U ran its course a long time ago, and they just don't know how to get off of it because Chase U is like NXT's Four Horsemen. They dust it off. It never goes away, but it's like it was great in the beginning. And then they kind of broke away from it. Thea Hale is so clearly the biggest star out of the whole thing. And then they just reverted her back to being the Thea Hale that she was. And I'm like, there's not a whole lot of overly bad booking things in WWE a lot of times. This is one of those. This is like and again, a lot of this is, I'm sure, as we keep saying, with the move to CW, I'm sure some of this stuff is getting lost in the cracks a little bit because you're kind of more worried about these big marquee things, and these small things are not as important to you for right now. And then once they get to CW, they're going to be like, oh, we need to tighten this up. This was dumb. We should never have let this go as long as it did.
So, and I couldn't agree more with them. And I think back to a couple weeks ago, we'd spoken about it. My fear, and this is talking about a group on the main roster, is that the Wyatt Six are going to get the Chase U syndrome. That's why I'm saying, like, things have a shelf life, and you can keep Chase U around, But it's time to get fresh blood in. It's time to get new students in your university.
Yep. I completely agree. All right, and we start the 9 o'clock hour with who Mr. Showtime believes is the biggest heel in WWE. Like Mussolini! And we get CM Punk coming out, and he's going to talk about NXT being in his hometown. It's going to be in Chicago.
Is that where he's from? I never knew that.
I would never have guessed.
Yeah, right?
I never realized that he was from Chicago.
He's never once
weird.
mentioned that every time
They
he talks.
never say that. It's the first I'm hearing of it, actually.
This is wild and unfounded rumor.
But he's going to talk about something that he wanted to do, and he gets interrupted by Roxanne Perez. And she cuts a really good heel promo on him. She talks about that he probably was going to talk about Julia because that's what everyone's talking about right now. And he's going to talk about this and that, and he was her favorite wrestler. And then she says, but I always liked your wife more. And you could almost see like Punk kind of look at him like, I always liked her more too.
There was definitely that. I think that was something he wasn't expecting, and I think that was an off the cuff from her, and just kind of a little something a little bit playful because the two of them away from camera, they actually are close. But listen, CM Punk is the biggest heel, and it couldn't possibly be a heel promo from Roxanne because she said she's a Drew McIntyre fan, and he is the face the entire time. So clearly.
So we're talking about the fate or the landscape of NXT, especially with this match. I'm going to ask you, Hound. You take the belt off Roxanne Perez on the first CW show and maybe move her up to the main roster?
That's what I was hinting at before. I think it's time. I think she's proven herself. And I think if you don't immediately put that strap on Julia, you have killed it.
I'm not disagreeing with you at all. But I'm going to put it to you this way because I've heard it put this way before, and I do agree with how this is going to be said. Do I think Roxanne Perez belongs on the main roster? Yes. Do I think she has the talent? Do I think she has the promo? Do I think that she has the wrestling ability? Yes. Check. If you put Roxanne Perez on the main roster right now and you don't have a direct path for her, did you just waste putting her on the main roster? Because she's too talented to just be someone that treads water right now.
I completely agree with that sentiment, and I don't think that she would, because I don't believe.
But where do you put her? That's kind of my question. Is Liv and Rhea are bound for a while right now, so Raw is kind of there. Nia, Tiffany, and Bayley. I mean, more Nia and Tiffany are bound right now. You're kind of there. Everyone else that you could throw her in with, it's kind of, I hate to say that the women's division isn't good right now, but it's a little lukewarm.
So
outside of the main storylines, outside of the two main storylines for the women's division in even WWE is a little, it's not even saturated. It's just, it like I said, it just feels lukewarm.
So you don't have to bring her in immediately into the title picture. Now,
I agree.
One of the things...
But who do you put her in there with?
Honestly, Damage Control.
I see that.
So stick her in there and let her...
as part of Damage Control? Or...
No.
So that's my only thing is, that means that you're bringing her in as a face this time. And she's done so much character work as a heel.
Well, yeah, but we've oftentimes seen folks who come from NXT and come up, they immediately come in as faces. even if they were the biggest heels down there, because, this is childhood dream realized. How could you not be overly excited about it? And I think you could set something up where, because look, she and Io Sky tear the house down.
They'll absolutely tear the house down. I think her and Kairi Sane will tear the house down.
And when Asuka comes back, if you're pushing Roxanne Perez to her and Asuka, you right there, you've built in a storyline to have because she's physically very little, but she's got the ability, she's got the believability that, like, when she's hitting somebody bigger, like, you're like, well, no, she's a Spitfire. There's actually something tough there. So you could spend 6 to 9 months doing something along these lines, and it doesn't even have to be something where she clean sweeps it. She can have losses in that time frame, and I don't think it would derail her.
I'm going to throw one more name out there that I would throw her in there with, because she's got to be coming back soon. Charlotte. Talk about how Charlotte is the queen, how she was the prodigy, and now Roxanne is the prodigy. And you get this whole storyline of, I'm not the past. I'm still here. I'm the present. I'm still the future too. But Roxanne is so clearly the future, and you could probably get something off of that too.
100% you could. And if you're going to do that, though, you've got to build to it. Because as talented as Roxanne is, it is a different world when you get in front of a crowd that size. And you start doing that week over week. So that's why, I mean, it doesn't have to be Damage Control. I just happen to think of folks.
No, I think Damage Control is a good idea. It's just that's been my thing is, I heard someone else say that if you don't have a direct path for her as soon as she gets to the main roster, and it doesn't have to be to the title, you need to have a plan for her. Just bringing her up for the sake of bringing her up is a waste.
Well, even if she drops the strap, she doesn't need to come up. Now, I mean, we're not far off from one of the big four. So even if she drops the strap, you can have her attempt to get it back in her farewell on NXT, blah, 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 whatever it is. We're close to Survivor Series, and we're not far from Royal Rumble. I think if she's not at Survivor Series, she's 1,000,000,000% in the Women's Royal Rumble.
Absolutely. I mean, she was in it last year, so I see no reason why she wouldn't be in it this year.
And I think she'll make a little bit of noise in this one.
I think so, too.
And if you really wanted to, if Charlotte's back, have Roxanne eliminate Charlotte.
That would be good. I think that would be the best one. We move on from that because CM Punk never gets to tell anyone what he wants to do for the NXT premiere on CW. And we had a tag team match with Evans and Cedric Alexander versus the No Quarter Catch Club. Let me just say this. I love the No Quarter Catch Club. I love Miles Bourne. He's super athletic, and he's even funny for the fact that he's deaf too, and like he has some communication issues, and you would never guess it because he just does funny stuff with it. And I feel like Charlie Dempsey is every bit of what his father was.
Yeah.
He's Regal for this new generation. He's smart enough to do some dumb stuff sometimes, but he's such a talented, gifted, technical wrestler that you can have him, you can pull him either way.
It's a breath of fresh air in the past. I mean, man, how many years would you say it's been? Like, it's been like 5-6 years that everybody and their mother started getting super into work rate spot monkey stuff. To see things come back and like to see a wrist lock mean something again.
To wrestle.
Yeah, to hit somebody hard in safe places. And it's good to see that come back.
Are you saying that you want to fight William Regal?
As long as he's nowhere near here, yes. If he hears this,
near here.
Oh, listen, you're 1,000 miles from me. I'm fine. But as long as he never hears this, the answer is yes.
I'm telling him.
Damn it. I'm not coming to
This
visit.
was cool because this led to, again, the foreshadowing from before. We get Randy Orton tweet that he is going to face Javion Evans at the St. Louis NXT event. That's a hell of a rub.
That's a hell of a lot of belief. Plus, it's Orton's hometown. So
It is Orton's hometown,
it,
and I mean that's a lot of belief in who this guy is, who this kid is, and like I said, this could turn into one hell of a rub for him. This is one of those things where you do this and then you go after the North American title right afterwards. Like you do this and then you get a program with Obafemi, and maybe you are actually the guy that beats Obafemi.
so, the way I would like to see this end, because there's not a universe in the multiverse where Randy Orton's losing that match to Javion Evans. But
He's totally losing that match, man.
yeah, but
He's lost a step.
please, he could lose 7 steps. He's still better than almost everybody. Pretty much. But if you think back to the Roman Reigns Logan Paul match, if you remember when Roman won and then him getting out of the ring and like the shocked look up the ramp and holding his jaw, like what? How did that just happen? Like if Orton
That's what we need.
We need that for.
We need something like that, yeah. And again, like this is one of those times where like this kid needs to show up and like prove that he can hold, prove that he can hang. Honestly, have it be something where he takes kind of everything except for the RKO and he's still there.
Yeah,
I think that would be a big one for him. And then like have Orton be like, have him hit the rope DDT and stuff like that, and go for the pin real quick. And like he kicks out. It's like this isn't Cena. This isn't so and so. Like this, like these moves should be putting you down.
You saying that brings me back, and we're going to be going back in time with this one here. Think back to the program with Jeff Hardy and American Badass Undertaker, and the whole thing where Hardy wouldn't stay down, and in the end got the respect.
It's a tried and true formula,
and it's the best way to get a babyface over.
What is it going to take to get this guy to stay down?
Mm-hmm.
And in the end, it's going to have to take an RKO for this guy that you wouldn't have thought that it's going to take. Like his power slam should take him out, but it doesn't.
With as athletic as Javion Evans is, I hope that we almost get an Evan Bourne style RKO, like one legitimately from out of nowhere, like full on meme worthy from out of nowhere. Like let the crowd believe, even if it's only for like 3-4 minutes at the end, where the whole story is Orton beats him up, he fights back a little bit and gets hit with a clothesline because Orton is legitimately a monster. Like people don't realize it because you're seeing him on TV. Dude's like 6'6" and 290 pounds.
Yeah, Orton's huge right now. He put on so much weight and so much size while he was out.
Did you see he was walking down the ramp and Samantha was introducing him? She's like, and weighing in at 275 pounds. And because he's just being like funny Orton right now, he looks and he starts going like this. He's like, he starts hitting his stomach. He's like, I ain't been 275 for a while. I've been eating. Like,
I think he's really just having fun right now.
Yeah, he is.
A match that it was. Let me say this: I like the two people involved in this match. Moving on from the Orton stuff, I like Lola Vice. I like JC Chain. Lola Vice not being from this world originally, not being from the pro wrestling world, and some of these people only knowing the WWE way of doing things, which is always do what your character would do. Her entrance for this match is one of the things that happens in WWE sometimes, and I absolutely hate it. She still did her dance to the ring, and this is a girl this is a group that you basically, we've thrown the word blood feud or the term blood feud around a lot lately. but you guys are supposed to be in a grudge, like a real grudge match. The last time I said this was, or one of the last times I said this was when Riddle was feuding with Seth Rollins. And you had this whole, like, they did the behind the scenes thing where, you know, Riddle's cursing him off and stuff like that. And then when they have the match, he still comes out on the scooter and he's still broing. And especially Rollins was already in the ring at this point. Like, no, man, like, no. That's not what you would do. If you're really this mad at this person, you'd run to the ring. This is one of those times where I want to see you hot shot it. This is one of those times where, like, if you're not going to hot shot it, it's because you ran to the ring and the heels powdered out rather than dealing with the fiery babyface.
Well, I believe that too, and even the Riddle thing and the Lola Vice thing, I think both of that is just an experience.
And again, that's why I'm saying it's not. I'm actually not mad at her. I'm not complaining that she did this.
She was allowed to do it.
This is a WWE thing that they constantly like do, and again, I want to see. I've seen Bianca Belair do it, and she's one of the best in the business. And it's one of those where I'm like, stop. It's the people that are doing it, and I hate to say it like this, are people who this was not their first path.
Yeah, I
hate to say it like that, but it's the Bianca Belairs who was the track and field star. It's the Lola Vices who were the MMA stars. It's always someone. It's almost always someone who comes from a different world originally.
So the
Riddle is the only one who I kind of actually, and I've had the conversation with him where I'm like, dude, why did you do that? And he's one of the only ones who he had spent enough time in the business where the reason I asked is I felt like he should have known better.
So the only one who gets a pass for me is Bianca Belair because her character is unbothered by whomever she's facing because she's supposed to be whatever you are. She is that EST. Like if you're strong, she's strongest kind of thing. But other than that, it could also be the MMA background for both Riddle and Lola Vice. Maybe they're trying to come off as unbothered by this whole thing because, you know, if this breaks down, like I'll legitimately just beat you up. But then if you do that, it's no longer wrestling.
That's what I'm saying. And I like Lola Vice. I think she's got a lot of upside to her. It's just a matter of, and again, I'm not blaming her. It's someone else should have been like, hey, whoever produced this match should have been like, you should just run down there. We should be doing it this way. And it's and you know what? I'll admit it. Maybe I'm old. Maybe I think that the way things were is the way things should be. Doesn't mean I'm wrong.
Well, no, I mean, well, that's the thing about opinions. For the most part, they're never wrong or right. I mean, it's also, dude, we also live in the age of TikTok. Yeah, it might be something to attract an audience because she did some kind of weird ass thing.
I mean, she does her little Cuban shake. Don't get me wrong, she's gorgeous and stuff.
I mean, I don't ever turn down a Cuban shake.
We end the show with the actual contract signing, and we find out that CM Punk is going to be the special guest referee, which, you know, seemed like the right thing to do here. I like where he was like, well, since I'm the guy who's in charge, I say fight. And I thought it was a good ending to this. I think it was a nice build to their stuff. I think we're gonna see a lot of good stuff coming off of NXT. They're gonna keep. I mean, with it being on network television, they're going to have to. They're gonna have to keep kind of injecting it with the occasional main roster star.
Yeah, you absolutely have to. And perfect example is Orton in his hometown.
CM Punk. CM Punk's from Chicago?
I mean, that's the rumor.
I think he lives in a Chicago suburb.
Oh, he's Chicago adjacent.
Yes. He lives in like Ferris Bueller's old house.
Oh, so Larry has a backyard. All right, very good.
You can't have a. Yeah, exactly. Oh no, he doesn't have a pig. Never mind. I'm sorry. Um, let's go on to AEW. Because we have a lot to cover for them, and yeah, stuff happened. Um, the Dynamite opens. We get Orange Cassidy with versus Chris Jericho because this feud just won't end. It just won't go away. We get there was a weird spot in there with a power slam. I don't know if you saw this, but like I think it was supposed to be like a tilt-a-whirl head scissors, but everything seemed like it got all mixed up, and it turned into like Jericho turning into like a running power slam. And I honestly, out of everybody, I think Taz did a really good job of like covering up whatever happened. But it just seemed, I don't even know what the move was supposed to be that they missed.
It was a clear misstep, and you saw what you saw there was years, literal decades in the business and decades of commentary cover up a brash young mistake. So as much as Jericho probably should stop wrestling, that spot right there showed it's like, all right, man, he actually still can go,
He
but
still
just
has it a little bit. I'm not even saying like what was it. I mean like I want to know what the move was originally that he screwed up on. That it seems like if nothing else he slipped off of it.
It was clearly it was a plastic bag.
No, stop it. We're not doing that anymore. It might have been a syringe.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
Yeah, be that one, huh? Um, speaking of which, we get a Blackpool Combat Club video and a Wheeler Yuta response. I like the Wheeler Yuta. I'm gonna still show up and do my job because it's my job. But I also like that they're showing that he's a little distant and despondent and doesn't, he left his title belt laying around. Like, I dig some of that. It's cool, this traumatization that they're giving Wheeler Yuta. This is one of those things you said this, and I will give you your flowers on this. If they play this right, they can make Wheeler Yuta a big star off of this.
Yeah. The way I see this ending is I see Yuta leaving the Blackpool Combat Club at when Moxley inevitably has the match with Bryan. That's how I see it happening, is something happening and Yuta protecting his hero. It might lead to a Yuta beatdown. I hope it doesn't go that route. I mean, it could, as long as in the end it's him and Danielson standing there together, because you got to have that visual at the end, like them yesing together.
So I'm going to ask you this because it just came to me. Bryan Danielson loses the title. Let's say the title match isn't actually his last match. What if Yuta is his send-off? And they have a match and Yuta wins clean.
I mean, there's not a person who, outside of like Daniel Garcia, there's not another person who more closely emulates Danielson, minus some of the martial arts stuff. And But that's the whole thing. Daniel Yuta wanted to be in the Blackpool Combat Club because of his respect for Danielson and because of his respect for Regal. So it's a good way to do it, but at the same point, what Danielson said is my full-time in-ring career ends when I lose this title. So there'll still be an occasional thing, and you could have a smart build after the loss where Danielson doesn't need to be on TV every week. He doesn't need to be in the ring wrestling every week, and lead to whatever how the next pay-per-view is, and that's where they do it. But it is if you're gonna do this, I think that's the only way to capitalize on it, and don't miss like it should have been Sting versus Darby.
Should have been Sting. That's exactly where I was going with it. Our following segment, we get Hook. Thanks, Tony Schiavone. Versus JD Inc. I just have him written on here as Tattoo Guy. With Roderick Strong on commentary because Roddy is going to challenge Hook for the FTW title. I'm gonna join the masses here. The FTW title has run its course in AEW. We don't need that belt there anymore. You can't keep defending a belt that's not sanctioned.
I'm over the Hook thing.
I'm over Hook in general. My thing is I know we said this about some people in NXT. He's tiny. I don't like the idea that you can use the excuse that Taz wasn't the biggest guy. Okay, there's a huge difference between being a 5'9", 240-pound badass with thighs that are big enough to be my body, and being a 6'1", 180-pound great athlete. He's a good athlete. He's phenomenal. He played D1 lacrosse. I get it. I'm not questioning how good of an athlete Hook is. I don't believe that he should be throwing around 400-pound dudes, though, when he is.
The misstep they had with Hook is you could have had him as a monster, even at his size, because that's the whole thing. Is he was supposed to be a monster, but the way you do it, it's not him hitting Taz, T-bone Tazplex or head and arm suplex or whatever, because it doesn't add up. But have him hitting lightning submissions out of nowhere, and people into insta taps, like something happens, drop down, roll through knee bars.
You hit the submissions the way people hit knockout punches.
And if they had done that, I think we're talking about Hook completely differently, and we're praying for a Hook Zack Sabre match.
Yeah. Or Hook Bryan Danielson. I think he was just handled wrong. I don't like his gear. There's just so much stuff I don't like about the overall. And again, I hate the fact that I'm so into aesthetics of wrestling. I don't like his gear. I don't think it fits. I don't like the boxing shorts because he doesn't really box. He's not wearing MMA shorts. He's wearing actual boxing shorts, and it throws it off. With the amount of money that he's making, can we please get some good tattoos on this kid finally? Because the prison looking tattoos are stupid. We know you have money. Taz hasn't been poor since 1993.
So the whole thing there, I mean, look, first off, he needs to go into tights. He needs to go into full leg length tights. And that's, I don't know if they were trying to go for the Mike Tyson type deal, where like walk out and Tyson only have his black trunks, black shoes, and the towel. Okay, that's fine. But Hook does not have that presence. I mean, you can't come out with hair that makes me think you're going to be out there going, Sharon, I can't believe that. Like, that's what his hair looks like to me. You can't be a Valley kid and be tough from Brooklyn.
I wasn't expecting that. I wasn't ready. I was
I mean,
ready for it.
but now you can't not see him being
Now
like,
I can't. Oh Jesus
being like,
Christ! I don't even want to talk about this
Muffet.
anymore. Now I'm moving on to the next segment because I can't catch this. I can't get this back.
You're welcome.
Thank you. I appreciate that. We get a patriarchy backstage promo. Christian says that that him and his son Nick Wayne are going to win, are going to hold titles at the same time, and then they do something going on with Kip Sabian. Again, I don't totally understand this storyline. I know this is moving into we're not going to cover Rampage because, quite frankly, if you're watching Rampage, I can't tell you what's going on there. They don't move storylines along there. They don't really do much of anything there. Even less so than they do on Collision. I know people who are diehard AEW fans and they don't watch Collision. I know diehard AEW fans that don't even know if Rampage is on every week anymore. So I don't even know where that came from. But the next segment we get is we get a match: Mariah May and Serena Deeb versus Queen Aminata. Her name's not Queen Amidala. I said that wrong a couple weeks ago. And Yuka Sakazaki. This is more build for Grand Slam, where Mariah May is going to wrestle Yuka. And Serena Deeb and Queen Aminata have been feuding. It's a really weird feud. All they do is wrestle. There's no actual talking to each other or anything like that. Mariah May takes the DQ. Or they lose because Mariah May decides she's going to take a DQ loss and kind of beats up on Yuka. Yuka Sakazaki seems like their new answer to not having Riho there. And then we get what we finally want. We get a Mina Shirakawa vignette to talk about how she is coming back to AEW to have some sort of confrontation with Mariah May. We don't know if they're going to be friends. We don't know if they're going to fight. Obviously, this is leading to them fighting, but we just don't know where it's going just yet.
It was fine for what it was. I get it. There's only so much time on air, and you're able to sandwich two feuds together. I'm a fan of Mariah May. I dig what she's doing, but I'm not super invested in the whole her and Sakazaki thing. I'm just not.
I'm not. Here's the thing, Mariah May. I think I hate the fact that the AEW Women's World Title is the secondary women's title right now.
Yeah.
It should never be that way, and it's because they put the TBS title on one of the Trust Fund babies, who wasn't even on the show. Hasn't been on the show since the pay-per-view.
Well, she's a CEO. She needs time off.
You know how we know that? They pump it
idea.
in through the music. CEO. Blackpool Combat Club comes out and beats up Private Party. This was after Private Party decided they were going to try to beat up Blackpool Combat Club. This was not their best plan.
It's not smart to go try to fight those gentlemen.
No, and
Cesaro alone is a deterrent enough.
Cesaro's bigger than both of them.
I just want him to grab both the Private Party, one by each leg, and do the giant swing, and then go oops, and watch them hit the upper decks.
It seems like a lot of this stuff with Blackpool, or at least Moxley, it feels very Joker Sting.
I see where you're going.
You know, like he's trying to tell you, like, I don't want to say he's not the heel because he's absolutely the heel. You don't break out a plastic bag and declare war without being an actual heel. But it almost seems, and again, the best heels always feel that they're justified in their actions, right? But it seems like he's trying in his warped mind to save things, where Joker's thing was actually trying to save things, but no one wanted to believe him because he was a little hoo-hoo.
I
I don't see this turning into where you find out that Moxley was saving people.
I just don't like where it's going, to be honest with you. I don't know if it's what the hell is her name? Marina Shafir? Is that her name?
Shafir.
I don't know if it's her being there, or it's the fact that it's.
Can I just bring up one thing that I'm thankful about with Marina Shafir? They have not let her talk once.
Yeah, that is a beautiful thing. See,
the only person who cuts a worse promo at one point was her husband.
I would be more into the Moxley thing if they were doing with him what they did in NJPW. I was with the Death Rider thing. I was like, that's cool, man. Here comes a guy from overseas. He's coming in there, and he's not much bigger than Minoru Suzuki. He's not much bigger than Ishii. And knowing who Moxley is and going out there and having all right, we're going to throw 18 consecutive forearms into each other's jaws as hard as we can. It adds up. And it adds up for that character. I can get behind that, and that could just be my Japanese wrestling fandom that can get behind that. Right now, okay, cool, you're trying something. I harken back to what I said when this initially happened. He left WWE because of bad booking. And this really, really, to me, while it's completely different, has the same kind of feel of the whole him getting a friggin' booster shot in the ass and being afraid of germs.
Yep. Just like that.
Yeah.
Darby comes out to make the save on this, and Mox runs away, which, again, there's just no consistency with this stuff. Especially since the entire Blackpool Combat Club was out there and Darby Allin was out there by himself.
It'd be different if Darby Allin was Lance Archer. Darby Allin is 7 pounds.
You're telling me Darby Allin holding a regular-sized skateboard is enough of a reason for the entire Blackpool Combat Club to run away? Because that's what they just told me. They beat up everyone else in the world. Darby, though. That guy gets hit by buses. And again, I like Darby. Let me change that. I like the idea of Darby. I don't dislike Darby. I think there's massive, massive, massive amount of potential for Darby. Do I think he seizes that potential? I don't know because I don't know if they book him into the way that he should be booked.
I don't know if it's me. I don't know if it's like overall. It's not wrestling fatigue, because that's one thing I've never really had, even in like the lull years across other things. I've always been able to get behind stuff. Cool, man. Like Darby, it's a cool idea, but I'm over it now.
You haven't had wrestling fatigue because you weren't here for the top 10 WrestleMania matches. I'm just saying, when you have to watch, when you spend time watching 40 matches over like 2 weeks, you get a little bit of wrestling fatigue.
I get what you're saying there, but I more mean I've never
fallen off.
Yeah, I mean
we've never fallen off of wrestling. We still always watched it. Like when I say I was fatigued after that, I mean I need like 3 or 4 days where there is no wrestling on my screens right now. I don't care that it's on. It can't be near me.
And every one of us, and I guarantee you it's folks listening too, we've all been super involved, and then life gets in the way, and you might have been watching Raw or SmackDown or your particular flavor of wrestling, and you haven't missed it. And then life gets in the way, and all of a sudden 2-3 months go by, and you're like, oh crap, I haven't watched in a while. And you may not be caught up to storylines, but every one of us has had that happen, and you look back and like, oh, this title changed. Wow, the title changed hands twice, and you get caught back up, and it becomes a thing you never truly leave, even if you take a break. And that's the thing. It's wrestling's one of those things where while we all take breaks, they've never been long.
I agree with that. I mean, again, it's this lifelong love that we've had with this business.
Yeah.
It's such a scary thing how much we love this stuff. We get Ricochet versus the Beast Mortos. Again, I'm not impressed with what they're doing with Ricochet. I'm not impressed with Ricochet in general right now. I came out of this match more impressed with the Beast Mortos, and it just wasn't. It was just a match. It was a match.
So Ricochet has done himself no favors.
No, and even him trying to do his greatest hits now, it's like it doesn't look good. Honestly, the stuff that people know him best for, the back handspring into the head scissors takedown and things like that. I hate to say it, but it all looked better in the WWE, and I think part of it might have been because those guys were a little bit bigger.
Yeah, there's that, and it's like
if they're gonna babyface him, he looks better as a small underneath babyface.
So my fear in this is, like I said the last time we talked about this, we're watching him get old, and I'm very worried that right now they've rushed to the Osprey thing because they're like, I'm not liking what I'm seeing, and it's kind of either rise to the occasion or he's gonna be somebody you see once every 3 weeks losing to, somebody.
Yeah, wrestler A, new shiny toy. He's gonna lose to the new shiny toy.
Yep.
And he is the new shiny toy right now.
He's not so shiny.
I mean, yeah, they got him at a flea market right now is kind of how it feels. We get a Hangman promo with Tony Schiavone where Hangman almost beats up Schiavone. It's one of those times I cheered for Hangman. I'm not going to get off of this. Tony Schiavone is the worst. This is going to be a point that I'm going to continue to make. I can get hired by AEW. Tony Khan can call me tomorrow. He can send me an email right now, and I will immediately. If he hires me, my exact answer will be immediately. You should fire Tony Schiavone.
I get where you're coming from with it. I do. Schiavone is... Listen, man, Schiavone.
He doesn't add anything to this. He makes weird noises, tells the other commentators when they make a good call. Like, you don't need to tell them when they made a good call. Like, and it's not like once in a while. It's all the time. I will die on this hill that Tony Schiavone is the worst commentator in wrestling right now.
He is.
And that's saying something with the commentary team in AEW.
He is, but...
You got a guy with a mask on because he wrestled with a mask on 15 years ago, and no one knows who he is.
Look, man, all I'm saying is I don't think you should be that angry over it. It is what it is.
I just wanted him to get his ass kicked, man. I would have cheered for Hangman in this situation.
Well, I get it. I get it.
This is my Drew McIntyre moment. I would have been okay with this.
Look, man, I don't know what they're doing with Hangman right now. I don't get the Jeff Jarrett thing.
I'm not
into it at all.
Again, some of these pivots that they've got going, these are not great, and I get that Swerve needs to not be on television right now, but after that pay-per-view, after All Out, man, you lost a lot of star power real quickly because of the way you wrote yourself into this corner. So you came out of 2 big pay-per-views and you immediately lost Bryan Danielson, your world champion, for at least a couple weeks. You've lost Swerve Strickland for at least a couple weeks, and you've lost MJF for God knows how long because he took a pile driver off the second rope, and he should be gone at least 2 months. Should be. And I'm saying at least.
The only thing I can say, I mean, and I get writing yourself into a corner. I wonder if there was poor communication about vacations. We are at the end, the summer just ended. This could be a lot of people taking some time off, and it just so happened that everybody fell all at the same time. And that's just thinking outside the box there.
And again, but what you're saying is that's poor business management.
Yes, I am completely
and not to beat
on
a
board.
dead horse, because we are kind of, but again, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm being harsh on AEW right now, but the fact of the matter is I watched literally just before we recorded this. I watched both Dynamite and Collision, and neither one of them lit my world on fire. And there weren't even segments during this that lit my world on fire.
Well, I don't disagree, but all I'm saying is you don't have to get that angry. Tony Schiavone.
Tony Schiavone's the worst.
He can be the worst. That's fine. He's no Pat McAfee.
No, Pat McAfee's definitely not the worst.
I've said many times he's the greatest.
I have gone on record many times. I think the greatest commentator on wrestling right now is still Corey Graves.
Yeah, I can see that.
He's a good straight man, and he's a good color guy, and he knows when to cover things up the right way. All right, so we get Ricochet and Ospreay in the back. I have written here that Ricochet should never talk, like ever. This is one of those times where I know I've said it about Ospreay. Ricochet was guilty of this one too. He kind of went around his wrist to get to his elbow. Like, he kind of just kept saying the same thing, and it just wasn't a good promo, man. You don't have to keep telling us how. He basically was telling us that he's the shiny new object. And we didn't need that.
Honestly, at this point, because we are beating a dead horse with this, we need to see what happens with Ricochet and Ospreay's match. I think we really shouldn't touch it again until then, because if Ricochet doesn't deliver, I fully believe he is now just going to be enhancement talent you see once in a while.
He's going to be on Collision. He's going to be on Collision every week, where he's going to have a good match, and he's going to feud with Hologram.
Yeah.
We get our main event, which is Ospreay, Fletcher, and Takeshita versus the Elite, consisting of the EVP Bucks and Okada. This was actually a good match. I'm getting. You know what? I'm going to give AEW their flowers. This was a good match. We got a good amount of tease between of the Takeshita Okada match. We got a good amount of tease of how much Takeshita and Ospreay don't get along. All around, I did not dislike this match.
It did what it needed to do.
It did exactly what it needed to do. Out of everything on this show, I will give it to them. The main event delivered the way it should have.
It was a good way to send the show off.
They sent the show off the right way. Here's the only thing that I'm going to disagree with, something that you said in the last show. We all kind of agree, and I said it too. We all kind of agreed by the end of the last show that Ospreay and Fletcher were probably going to win the tag team titles. I'm going to say that because they won tonight, they might not. Or, I'm sorry, they won on this past Dynamite. That's kind of a sign that I don't know if they're going to win the tag titles at this point. I don't think they're going to get double crossed. I just don't think. I don't think those tag titles are leaving the Bucks just yet.
I mean, it is what it is at this point with the Bucks. It's Ospreay doesn't need 2 belts right now, so
He
then
does
that's
fine.
Be
Will 2 belts,
and that's totally fine.
All right, so that's Dynamite. On to Collision. We open up Collision with an ROH tag team title match, a bunkhouse brawl with Dustin Rhodes and Sammy Guevara, the tag team champions, versus Matt Taven and formerly known as the Miracle, Mike Bennett, the Undisputed Kingdom. This match was exactly what I thought it would be, and let me change that. I didn't expect a taser in it, but there was one. Luckily, no one got tased.
And I wish AEW had not gone with any blood right now. I think they need to stray away from it. The only takeaway from that match that was good for me is that you teased the potentially deadly weapon and didn't use it. You could have and I'm leaving it at that. I don't want to rehash things we've been talking about.
No, not at all. Here's what I'm going to say. If this match should have happened on actual Ring of Honor, because they could have had this bunkhouse brawl match, they could have had the blood, they could have had all the violence, and because it happened on Ring of Honor, I realize it's still owned by the same people, but you get that little bit of a crowbar, that little bit of wiggle room where, well, we didn't do it on our programming, we did it on Ring of Honor. Not to mention it's the Ring of Honor tag team titles. It gives a little bit of a nod and a rub to your Ring of Honor product that kind of needs to be watched a little bit more.
Well, it becomes adjacent enough to be acceptable.
I'm not disagreeing with you. I think they should have steered away from some of the uber violence for a little bit longer.
A lot of it.
But baby's still in the toilet. We get an Evil Uno and Darby segment where there was actually some passion involved in this. I like how Darby's saying he's not just going to go down on his back. He's going to go out fighting. I didn't hate this part of the program. Again, they kind of only push one storyline overall from the week on Collision. I think they could do a little bit more, and I think the show would be a little bit better, but it is what it is. This is where the best wrestle. We blow through dream matches like they're candy.
The only thing I'll say about that whole thing, and I think the unsung hero there is Evil Uno. I think Evil Uno gets a lot of really good out of people, and it goes unnoticed.
So I really like this because their whole thing was that Darby calls him out for kind of coasting, and the match you get out of them later, you get a really good match, and you get Evil Uno coming out and being fired up and actually giving them a fight, and we get a better match than we probably should have out of this.
I wasn't even talking about the in-ring stuff. I was talking about Evil Uno brings good
overall
promos.
The overall story that we get out of this.
Yeah, and I believe that Darby needed that because he's not strong on the mic, and I believe Evil Uno gets a lot of really good out of people because he's got a great mind for the business, and he's a solid hand in the ring.
I agree with that. I think he's one of those guys that again doesn't get the credit he deserves for doing all that stuff because he does a lot of comedy stuff too. And unfortunately, when you do a lot of comedy stuff, you kind of get that moniker a little bit. Next up, we get Hologram, Mark Briscoe, Kyle O'Reilly with Rocky Romero versus the Premier Athletes. Again, this is just another time of these guys getting thrown together to face these people, and for what appears to be no reason. The match was good.
Yeah, it's
ish.
It's people in there who you know are going to pull off some cool stuff. That's really all it is.
Yeah, like they had an okay match, but even some of the stuff that they did was still kind of. All these guys are really experienced. They all have a lot of ring psychology knowledge, and even some of that got lost in there. Like I said, the match was good-ish, and I'm sorry we're blowing through AEW Collision, but that's kind of just where we're at with this show. This is there's not a lot going on here, and we're trying to just make sure that we cover what did happen. we get an AEW Women's Title Eliminator match: Mariah May versus Lady Frost. Hound, we talked about this beforehand. How do you have an eliminator match when you have a title match in like 5 days?
Well, I want to say that it was just, things being handled poorly and a promo being written poorly. I'm sorry, how do you if the champion's in it, it's not a title eliminator match, it's a title match.
You don't get a title. She wasn't going to get the title if she won it.
So, okay, well then after she lost it, she's just eliminated from contention of challenging again. Fine.
On the other side of it is Mariah May. If she loses, she gets the title. I don't think that these eliminator matches drum up the interest that AEW or Tony Khan thinks that they do.
It's an adjective. That's all it is.
Just give me a number one contenders match.
Again, it's just an adjective. It's poorly. It's just poorly placed. It's just poor grammar, really.
Make this a title match at this point. If the champion never loses, it's not an eliminator. There's no, you don't get the drummed up interest of, oh well, they beat the champion. The champion always wins.
And that's why I said I want to never confuse with malice, so it can be explained away with ignorance. And I wouldn't doubt if it wasn't just somebody wrote something and wrote the wrong word.
I mean, maybe. I don't know. According to them, this was supposed to be like they keep using these eliminator matches, man.
Then the definition colloquially within AEW is just different.
They do these title eliminators where if you beat the champion, you get a title shot. Which
unless they're saying that because it eliminates other people from contention, like other people that might have a chance that maybe that's
that's what happens is, so if Lady Frost had won this match, she would have gotten the next shot at Mariah May or the AEW Women's Champion coming out of Grand Slam.
Okay, so really all they need to do is just change the word eliminator. It's really all it is. Just find a different descriptor. That's all.
It's just dumb. We already talked about the Darby and Evil Uno match. Again, it was a good match. I really like this. They got really good stuff out of each other. I was really happy with this. We get Serena Deeb and Queen Aminata again. This is this grudge match that they kind of keep building on. Serena Deeb wins this one. I think this is good. I like Serena Deeb a lot. Queen Aminata, I think she's one of those ones who she just needs more reps. And which I feel like I say a lot about AEW talent, but it's just because they do. They need more reps. They're young talents who just don't get in the ring enough.
Well, the roster's too bloated to get them in the ring.
And we've said that again. Where we keep going back to this, we keep saying that's, and I don't want to keep beating this dead horse, but like some of these people just need more reps. They need you. If you're going to build a storyline, you need these people on television every week. Yeah. We get the main event. It's a 10-man tag match because nothing can go wrong with that. With FTR, the Outrunners, and Hook versus the Beast Mortos, Roosh, not Rush, and the Grizzled Young Vets. And this is a match that the heels go over on. I was a little shocked by this. Are they just trying to trash FTR at this point?
I think FTR has more input than people realize. And I wouldn't doubt if FTR trying to do something for the Grizzled Young Vets. I wouldn't.
Maybe, but the Grizzled Young Vets didn't go over on them. Like, that's the thing is, I'd be in on it. I totally would buy what you're saying if FTR took the pin from Grizzled Young Vets. But they didn't. But the people who took the pin were off of Roosh.
And who took the pin? I forget right now.
I don't even remember. In all honesty, that's how
it wasn't
unmemorable the match turned
it
into.
wasn't FTR. So if anything, it's just so that way you have an excuse to keep them
I
together.
think it was just the Outrunners one of the Outrunners
Yes,
took
it
the
was
pin
one of
from
the
Rush.
Outrunners, and that's fine. You have an excuse to keep FTR and the Grizzled Young Vets together because they're doing well together, and
They are
let
doing
them.
well together. I'm not mad about that feud. It's just it really feels like they kind of, again. I just don't think they. I think FTR is a good enough tag team that they can main event a pay-per-view as a tag team.
I agree, and again, this is it's too many cooks in the kitchen right now. It's making some people earn their paycheck, kind of thing. That's really all it was.
So that was the main event. They actually don't end the show with that though. They end instead they immediately go to a backstage promo with Serena Deeb calling out Dr. Britt Baker for Grand Slam. And then they get Nigel and Tony Schiavone arguing on the rampway about whether or not Bryan Danielson is scared of Nigel. If he's going to be cleared to wrestle, it kind of goes off the air with Nigel still calling out Bryan Danielson, which we still won't know until basically Showtime if he's cleared.
He's clear. But
I'm sure he's cleared because,
again, it's Tony not having a wrestling mind. It's tough to talk about this when you talk about Vince McMahon, who, wrestling mind-wise, while yes, the game passed him by, there was not a better mind for the business for a long time. And now you're trying to compare Tony Khan to Triple H? No.
So that's my big. I said this to Showtime. I don't think I said this to you. One of the biggest knocks I have on Tony Khan, and I'm not trying to critique him too hardly in this one, is unfortunately, as far as being a booker goes, the one thing that all great bookers and promoters had in common is they sat at the learning tree under a former great booker. Vince sat under his father.
Yeah.
When he wasn't sitting under his father, they were still part of the NWA, so you got to see all these other people. You got to see the Vern Gagnes. You got to see the Harley races run different promotions, things like that. You had guys in WCW that sat under Ole and Dusty and even Flair and all these and Kevin Sullivan and all these guys that held the pencil at one point or another, that all sat under Eddie Graham, that sat under blah 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 blah, that sat under so and so. Tony's never had that guy to sit under.
Yeah, and
that's the thing is I'm not blaming him for not having that, but you have all these guys in the back that you can lean on a little bit, and maybe you should.
Well, I'll leave it at this. I agree with he's got people he should be leaning on. I think the people he should be leaning on, he can't lean on because they don't look at him as a true leader. And I don't believe they trust him enough. I think they're like, all right, we're just going to do it our way. And unfortunately, there's just not enough structure.
But I mean, even I don't even mean active wrestlers at this point. I actually mean agents in the back.
And again,
if at one point you had, I mean, obviously he's not there anymore, but you had like Arn and Tully and Jerry Lynn and Dean Malenko, and you have all these guys back there. Again, bring them on as your writing team. Hey, why don't you think this would work? Does everyone think that this will work? No? Okay, why? And again, this is something, as how you said, they don't see him as a leader. I actually think this is a major leader thing to do is I need to take your advice because you have 50 years of experience in this business.
So a lot of times people equate money to know-how. Tony may believe he's the smartest guy in the room. He also may never have had to ask for anything before. It might just be as simple human thing as he doesn't know how to ask.
He doesn't know how to, and I'll go with that. I'll actually agree with that with you. Because when has he had to ask for anything?
So that's where I would say it would behoove these agents in the back to say, hey, let's take a step back and, hey, as the kids say, let me cook.
Yeah. Can I sit down and talk to you? Like, he's obviously not opposed to sitting down and talking to wrestlers. Hey, can I talk to you about the product? I think I have some ideas that can be better. We can improve our product a little bit. If you're not willing to listen, even if you don't take their ideas, it gives you a jumping off point, right?
Yeah, and again, we're not in those rooms. We don't know what's going on. If it were me in there, I know me. I would have long since gone to Tony Khan and been like, all right, man, hold on, we got to fix this.
Yeah, ho.
But then again, it is different for some folks. I mean, I don't give a damn who you are, but for some folks, the guy who signed their paycheck, they get a little gun shy about saying something too. And it could be that too. Again, we never know. I'm trying to leave this with a not so constant bash AEW thing. I'm trying to find the fact that they are 5 years is still new.
I mean, they are still new. I think and kind of how you've said, they just can't seem to find their identity.
Yeah. So I'm going to just end what I have to say about this with, I'm hopeful.
I want to see where they go with this television deal. I want to see where they go with everything coming out of All Out and how they pivot this stuff. I'd like to see what they do with this Grand Slam, because apparently Grand Slam is also their 5-year anniversary. Let's see how all of this I think Grand Slam is also their 5-year anniversary. Either that or it's the next one. But let's see how all of this goes. And Hound, if nothing else, I'm glad we got to do this episode. This is the first time we've done an episode covering just these products. And you know what? We'll have more for you next time, guys. Hound, you got anything else you want to say to the lovely Legion out there?
I'll leave you with the same thing I say every time. Thank you very much for giving us your single most valuable resource, your time. And God bless.
And as always, guys, remember, tuck your chin when you bump.